My name is Rudolph Carter, and at 35, I never expected a Christmas agreement to shatter 2 decades of family ties. When my mom suggested we skip gifts this year, I was relieved. My teaching salary only stretches so far, especially with 2 kids and child support payments. I arrived at my parents' house hopeful for once, only to watch my nephews unwrap iPhones while my children sat empty-handed. I just nodded, but that night everything changed. Before we continue, let me know where you're watching from and subscribe for more real-life stories. Life as a high school English teacher in suburban Michigan isn't exactly the path to financial freedom. Most days I love what I do. Seeing the light bulb moment when a student finally connects with Shakespeare or finds their voice in a personal essay makes the modest salary almost worth it. Almost. My kids Alex and Sophie are 10 and 8 respectively. They split their time between my small 3-bedroom ranch house and their mother's place across town. The divorce finalized 14 months ago, though the emotional dust still hasn't fully settled. Kelly and I tried, but sometimes trying isn't enough when 2 people grow in opposite directions. The financial reality hit hard after the split. Mortgage payments on a house I bought at the market peak. Student loans that seem to barely shrink despite years of payments. Child support that occasionally arrives late from Kelly, whose real estate career experiences unpredictable ups and downs. Budget grocery shopping. Second-hand clothes. Counting pennies until the next payday. It's not poverty, but it's a constant grinding pressure. Then there's my brother Jason, 5 years younger than me but miles ahead in the financial race. Investment banking suited his competitive personality perfectly. His wife Stephanie stays home with their 3 children, runs a moderately successful online boutique on the side, and still finds time to maintain a picture-perfect social media presence, chronicling their charmed life. The disparity between our families has always been obvious, but nowhere more painfully than at family gatherings. Last Christmas stands out vividly in my memory. My nephew Thomas unwrapping a PlayStation 5 while his sister Amanda opened a brand new MacBook. Their youngest Bradley received an elaborate Lego set that cost more than I spent on both my children combined. Meanwhile, Alex received a discounted science kit I found on clearance, while Sophie got a craft set from the dollar store that I dressed up with extra supplies. The contrast extended beyond Christmas. Jason's kids celebrated birthdays with elaborate parties at trampoline parks or indoor water facilities, complete with professional entertainers and custom cakes. My children blew out candles on homemade birthday cakes in our backyard with a few neighborhood friends and dollar store decorations. The comments never helped. My parents' constant praise of Jason's career accomplishments, the not-so-subtle comparisons, the suggestions that perhaps I should have chosen a more lucrative field, their bemused reactions when I shared small victories from my classroom, my mother's frequent sighs about how I could have done so much more with my life. The irony of it all. Despite my financial limitations, I provided significant support to my family. I managed and paid for the family cell phone plan, including lines for my parents, Jason, Stephanie, and their oldest son. All 8 lines paid monthly from my checking account, a system that started years ago when I worked briefly for a telecom company and got a discount. The streaming services everyone enjoyed, Netflix, Hulu, Disney+, HBO Max, and Amazon Prime, all under my accounts, all paid from my credit card. Technical support calls at all hours when my parents' computer acted up or when Jason's printer wouldn't connect. The website hosting I paid for to help Stephanie launch her online business 3 years ago, which I still maintained and updated regularly. Then, there were the emergency loans. Dad needing $500 to cover an unexpected car repair. Mom short on her credit card payment. Small amounts that added up over time, rarely repaid despite promises to the contrary. So when my mother suggested during our family Zoom call in October that we focus on quality time instead of material gifts this Christmas, I felt a wave of relief wash over me. I think we should all agree not to do gifts this year, she said, her face serious on my laptop screen. It's been such a challenging time for everyone. Let's just enjoy being together. Everyone nodded in agreement. Jason mentioned something about inflation and his investment portfolio taking hits. My father talked about simplifying. My mother spoke eloquently about the true meaning of Christmas. "That's perfect," I said, perhaps too enthusiastically. "The kids and I can focus on making some special memories instead." The group text message my mother sent afterward confirmed the arrangement. Christmas Eve at our house this year. No gifts. Just family time and good food. Can't wait to see everyone. I felt like a weight had lifted. No more competing with Jason's financial superiority. No more watching my children try to hide their disappointment when their cousins received lavish presents while they got budget-friendly options. No more stretching my credit card to its limit to maintain appearances. I sat down with Alex and Sophie that evening to explain the new arrangement. Grandma and Grandpa want to focus on family time this Christmas. Instead of presents, I told them as we sat at our small kitchen table. "No presents at all?" Sophie asked, her small face scrunching in confusion. "Not at Grandma and Grandpa's house," I explained. "Well, still have our presents here on Christmas morning. But at Grandma's, it's just going to be about spending time together, playing games, eating good food, talking and laughing." Alex, always sensitive to financial matters beyond his years, nodded seriously. "That's actually cool, Dad. Christmas shouldn't just be about stuff anyway." In the weeks leading up to Christmas, we prepared accordingly. The kids and I spent evenings making handmade cards for everyone. We baked batch after batch of cookies from my grandmother's recipe, packaging them in colorful tins I found at the thrift store. Sophie created a special drawing for her grandparents, while Alex wrote a story about his favorite family memories. For our own small Christmas at home, I budgeted carefully. A refurbished tablet for Alex to help with his schoolwork. A starter sewing kit for Sophie, who had recently shown interest in making her own stuffed animals. Small, thoughtful gifts within my means. Nothing extravagant, but items chosen with care and consideration for their interests. As Christmas Eve approached, I felt genuinely optimistic for the first time in years. My children talked excitedly about seeing their cousins, about playing board games and watching holiday movies together. The pressure of performative gift-giving lifted. I believed we might actually enjoy the holiday. I should have known better. Christmas Eve morning dawned bright and clear with fresh snow blanketing our neighborhood. The kids woke early, their excitement palpable, as they helped load the car with our contributions to dinner. Sophie carefully balanced the container of homemade cookies, while Alex carried a casserole I'd prepared the night before. "Do you think Uncle Jason will play chess with me this time?" Alex asked as we drove through town. His uncle had promised a game last family gathering, but got distracted by a work call that lasted the entire evening. "I'm sure he'll have time today," I replied, hoping it was true. "Remember, it's all about family time this year." My phone rang as we turned onto my parents' street. My mother's name flashed on the screen. "Rudolph. Are you on your way?" she asked when I answered. "Just about there. Maybe 10 minutes out." Good, good. "Can you come a bit earlier? I could use some help setting up before everyone arrives." "We're already on our way, Mom." "Well, be there soon." "Perfect. See you soon, dear." As we pulled into my parents' long driveway, I noticed something through the large bay window at the front of their house. A mountain of wrapped presents stacked under and around their 12-foot Christmas tree. My stomach dropped. "Dad, look at all the presents," Sophie exclaimed from the back seat, her voice rising with excitement. "Yeah, I see them," I replied, trying to keep my voice neutral as I parked behind my father's Lincoln. Alex, always perceptive, caught my tone. "I thought we weren't doing gifts this year." "That's what we agreed to," I said, unbuckling my seatbelt. "Let me talk to Grandma and figure out what's going on." My father answered the door, dressed in a festive sweater, a glass of eggnog already in hand. His eyes darted away from mine as he greeted us. "There's my favorite grandkids. Come in, come in. It's cold out there." He ushered the children inside, but hung back as I followed with the food containers. "Dad," I said quietly, "I thought we agreed no gifts this year." He took a long sip of his eggnog before responding. "Oh, you know your mother. She just got a few small things for the grandkids. Couldn't help herself. He clapped me on the shoulder. Come on in. Dinner's almost ready. In the kitchen, my mother bustled around in her apron, checking the turkey and directing my father to stir various pots. She greeted the children with hugs and cookie samples, then turned to me. Rudolph, would you mind setting the table? The good china is in the dining room cabinet. Mom, I said, keeping my voice low, as the kids examined the gingerbread house on the counter. What happened to no gifts this year? There's a pile of presents in the living room. She waved a dismissive hand. Oh, just a few small things for the grandkids. Nothing extravagant. The children deserve something special, don't you think? Before I could respond, the sound of a car pulling into the driveway caught everyone's attention. Through the kitchen window, I watched Jason's new Range Rover park beside my aging Honda. The contrast couldn't have been more stark. The next few minutes were a flurry of greetings, as Jason, Stephanie, and their 3 children entered the house. Thomas, 15, immediately had his face buried in his phone. Amanda, 12, was dressed like she stepped out of a department store catalog. Bradley, 9, carried a Nintendo Switch that he continued playing even as he mumbled hello. Merry Christmas, everyone. Stephanie announced, handing my mother a bottle of expensive champagne. She wore a red designer dress that probably cost more than my monthly mortgage payment, diamond earrings catching the light as she moved. Jason followed, carrying several large gift bags. Where should I put these, Mom? My mother pointed to the living room. Under the tree with the others, dear. My children watched in confusion as their cousins added more packages to the already substantial pile. Sophie tugged at my sleeve. Dad, I thought you said no presents. I thought so too, honey, I replied quietly. Let me figure this out. The next hour passed in a blur of thinly veiled tension, as we all pretended everything was normal. Jason dominated conversation with stories about his latest deals and market predictions for the upcoming year. Stephanie described the exclusive ski resort they'd booked for February. My parents hung on every word, asking questions and expressing admiration for their achievements. And how are things at school, Rudolph? My mother eventually asked during a lull in conversation. Good, I replied. My AP Literature students are doing exceptional work this year. One of them just got accepted early decision to Yale. That's nice, my mother said, before immediately turning to Jason. Now tell us more about that promotion you're up for. In the kitchen, helping my mother with last-minute dinner preparations, I tried once more to understand what was happening. Mom, seriously, we all agreed no gifts. I explained to my kids there wouldn't be presents. Now there's a mountain of them out there, and based on the sizes and shapes, I can guess they aren't for my children. She sighed dramatically as she basted the turkey. Oh, Rudolph, you took that so literally. Of course, there would be some gifts for the grandchildren. It's Christmas. But the agreement? Don't be so sensitive, she cut me off. It's just a few things. Nothing to make a fuss about. Now would you please carve the turkey? Your father's hopeless with a carving knife. I bit my tongue and focused on maintaining my composure. For my children's sake, I would get through this dinner. We would make the best of the situation, whatever it might be. Dinner was an elaborate affair. Turkey with all the trimmings, 3 different potato dishes, green beans with almonds, homemade rolls, my mother's signature cranberry relish. My father opened several bottles of expensive wine, pouring generously for the adults, while my children drank apple juice from crystal glasses that had belonged to my grandmother. Jason held court at one end of the table, detailing his company's response to recent market fluctuations and how Head managed to increase his year-end bonus despite economic headwinds. Stephanie occasionally interjected with anecdotes about the charity gala Shed co-chaired or the school board position Shed recently accepted. The networking opportunities are just incredible, she explained, touching the diamond bracelet on her wrist. Jason surprised me with this last week, just because he said, "Isn't he thoughtful?" My parents beamed at their younger son and his picture-perfect family. My own children ate quietly, occasionally answering direct questions, but otherwise staying silent. I noticed Alex carefully watching the family dynamics, his observant eyes missing nothing. Sophie pushed food around her plate, her earlier excitement noticeably diminished. As dinner concluded, and my mother brought out her traditional Christmas Eve trifle, my father cleared his throat. I was thinking, he announced, maybe we should open gifts tonight instead of waiting until tomorrow. Just this once. My mother immediately agreed. What a wonderful idea. That way the children can enjoy their presents right away. Jason and Stephanie nodded enthusiastically. Their children perked up, exchanging excited glances. My own kids looked to me in confusion. I thought we weren't doing gifts this year, I said, trying to keep my tone light. Well, we did get a few things for the grandchildren, my mother repeated her earlier explanation. No sense in making them wait until tomorrow. Before I could respond, she was shepherding everyone to the living room where the Christmas tree lights twinkled over the mountain of wrapped packages. My father began distributing gifts, creating enormous piles in front of each of Jason's children, while my own sat empty-handed on the sofa. After the gifts were sorted, my mother handed me a small envelope. "This is for your family," she said with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. The gift opening began with Thomas Jason's oldest son tearing into a large box to reveal the latest iPhone with accessories including AirPods Pro and a designer case. "Sweet," he mumbled immediately, removing it from the packaging. Amanda opened a series of boxes containing designer clothes, a jewelry box with what appeared to be real gold earrings, and an expensive makeup set from a high-end brand. Bradley, the youngest, shrieked with delight as he unwrapped a massive gaming computer setup. The Alienware Aurora R15. "This is exactly what I wanted." Jason leaned over to me. $3,910, top of the line. The kid better get good grades to justify it. He laughed as if Wed shared a joke. The extravagance continued. VIP, concert tickets to see a popular band, new gaming systems with stacks of games, expensive clothing, electronics. The pile of discarded wrapping paper grew as my children watched silently, their faces struggling to maintain neutral expressions. Finally, with all their gifts opened, my nephews and niece began playing with their new possessions, barely mumbling thank yous to their grandparents. In the momentary lull, I opened the envelope my mother had handed me. Inside was a gift card to Olive Garden for $50 and a card that read, "For some family time. Love, Grandma and Grandpa." Sophie leaned close to me, her voice a whisper. "Did we do something wrong, Daddy?" My heart broke at her question. "No, sweetheart. You didn't do anything wrong." Alex sat stiffly beside me, jaw clenched, trying to appear unaffected by the obvious disparity. But I could see the hurt in his eyes, the effort it took to maintain his composure. "Mom, Dad," I said, keeping my voice calm and level. "Can I speak with you for a moment? In private?" My parents exchanged glances before following me to the kitchen. "What exactly happened to our agreement about no gifts this year?" I asked once we were alone. My mother sighed. "Oh, Rudolph, we meant adults wouldn't exchange gifts. Of course, we're going to give presents to our grandchildren." "All your grandchildren?" I asked pointedly. Because from what I just witnessed, only 3 of them received gifts. My father jumped in. "We got your kids the gift card. You can take them out for a nice dinner." While Thomas got an iPhone, Amanda got designer clothes, and Bradley got a gaming PC worth thousands of dollars, I countered. "How is that remotely fair or equal treatment?" "The grandkids shouldn't suffer because of it," my father said defensively. "Which grandkids would those be exactly?" I asked. "Because Alex and Sophie are your grandchildren too." My mother placed a hand on my arm. "You're overreacting, Rudolph. Jason can afford to supplement what we give his children. We know your situation is different." From the doorway I heard a snort of laughter. Jason stood there smirking. Always the drama queen, bro. "It's Christmas. Lighten up. Your children just received thousands of dollars in gifts, while mine got a restaurant gift card," I said evenly. "That's not drama. That's a fact." Stephanie appeared behind Jason. I think you're making the children uncomfortable with this conversation. Perhaps we should focus on enjoying family time since that's what you said was important to you." Jason nodded. "Not everyone can afford lavish gifts on a teacher's salary. We get it. No need to make a scene." I took a deep breath, counting silently to 10. "You're right. Let's rejoin the family." The evening continued to deteriorate. Jason's children played with their expensive new gadgets, occasionally showing them off to their grandparents, who expressed appropriate awe at each new feature. My children sat quietly on the couch, attempting to be invisible. My parents focused their attention almost exclusively on Jason's family, asking questions about the gifts and encouraging demonstrations of the new technology. As I returned from the bathroom, I overheard Jason and Stephanie talking in the hallway. "Can you believe him making such a fuss?" Stephanie whispered. "Acting like we're obligated to equalize everything between the kids." "Classic Rudolph," Jason replied with a chuckle. "Always the victim. Maybe if Head made better life choices, his kids wouldn't be the charity cases of the family." I stepped back, not wanting them to know I'd heard. The comment stung, but more than that, it clarified something I'd been feeling for years but had never fully acknowledged. The evening continued its painful course. In the living room, Thomas showed Bradley how to set up his new gaming computer, while Amanda tried on different combinations of her new clothes, modeling them for my mother, who offered effusive compliments. My own children had retreated to a corner of the room, Alex, reading a book Head brought in his backpack, while Sophie quietly played a game on my phone. My father slipped out to the garage for what he called a moment of peace, and I followed, hoping for a private conversation. "Dad," I said, as he settled into his workshop chair, "can we talk about what's happening in there?" He sighed, pulling out a pack of cigarettes he thought my mother didn't know about. "What now, Rudolph?" "The disparity between how you and Mom treat the grandchildren. Surely you see how hurtful it is to Alex and Sophie." He lit his cigarette, taking a long drag before responding. "Look, son, the real world isn't fair. The sooner your kids learn that, the better off they'll be." The casualness of his cruelty took me aback. "They're children, Dad, and you're their grandfather. It's not about the real world. It's about family." "Jason provides well for his family," my father continued, as if I hadn't spoken. "He made good choices, picked a lucrative career, married a woman who supports his ambitions, stayed married." The implication was clear. So my children deserve less because I chose to teach, because their mother and I divorced. He shrugged. "Actions have consequences. You made your choices. I respect that you followed your passion or whatever, but don't expect everyone else to subsidize your lifestyle decisions." "Subsidize?" I repeated incredulously. "Dad, I'm not asking you to subsidize anything. I'm asking for fairness in how you treat your grandchildren." "Life isn't fair," he repeated. "Poor decision-making has ripple effects, son. Your divorce, your career choice. These things impact your children. That's just reality." I stared at my father, truly seeing him for perhaps the first time. The callousness, the conditional love, the materialistic values disguised as pragmatism. "My choice to teach impacts my income. Yes," I said quietly, "but it doesn't determine my worth as a person, or the worth of my children." He waved his hand dismissively. "No one said anything about worth. We're talking about Christmas gifts." "No, Dad. We're talking about how you and Mom consistently favored Jason's family over mine. We're talking about the message you're sending to all your grandchildren about who matters and who doesn't." He crushed out his cigarette. "You've always been too sensitive. This is why you struggle in life. You take everything so personally." I left him in the garage and returned to the house, finding my mother alone in the kitchen washing dishes. "Mom, can we talk about tonight?" I asked. She continued scrubbing a pot. "If you're going to complain again about the gifts, I really don't want to hear it." "It's not just about tonight," I persisted. "It's about a pattern that's been going on for years. The favoritism toward Jason and his family is impossible to ignore." She turned to face me, drying her hands on a towel. There's no favoritism, Rudolph. That's all in your head. Mom, you gave his kids thousands of dollars worth of gifts, and mine a $50 gift card. How is that not favoritism? We give what we can. Jason supplements what we provide. If you could do the same, your children would have more too. So you're punishing my children because I earn less than Jason. No one is punishing anyone, she said with exasperation. Perhaps if you worked harder, you could provide more like Jason does. I work 60-hour weeks during the school year, Mom. I grade papers until midnight. I run the drama program without extra pay. I tutor students on weekends. How much harder should I work? There's working hard, and there's working smart, she replied. Jason works smart. He always has. As we talked in circles, I heard laughter from the living room. Peering around the corner, I saw my parents sitting with Jason and Stephanie, all of them chuckling at something. As I moved closer, I caught the tail end of Jason's comment. Basically the family charity case at this point, he was saying. Thank God for Rudolph, though, right? Every family needs someone to feel superior to. My parents laughed along with him. Not uncomfortable laughter, not polite laughter. Genuine amusement at my expense. In that moment, something crystallized for me. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't a one-time oversight. This was a systematic pattern of disrespect that had persisted for years, and I had allowed it, accommodated it, excused it all while continuing to provide support that went unacknowledged and unappreciated. I thought of all the times Id paid their cell phone bills without comment, the streaming services everyone used without contribution, the technical support at all hours, the loans never repaid, the website I maintained for Stephanie's business, the cloud storage hosting Jason's important documents. All given freely with no expectation of repayment beyond basic respect and fairness, a respect that clearly didn't exist. I walked to the living room entrance. Alex, Sophie, I called quietly. Please get your coats. We're going to head home. My children looked up, relief flashing across their faces as they quickly gathered their few belongings. You're leaving? My mother asked, surprise in her voice. But it's only 8:30. We haven't even had dessert yet. I'm not feeling well, I said, which wasn't entirely a lie. My stomach churned with a mixture of disappointment, anger, and resolve. I think it's best if we head home. Always so dramatic, my father muttered. Sophie hugged her grandparents politely before joining me at the door. Alex gave a stiff nod beyond his years in his understanding of the situation. Merry Christmas. Bro. Jason called from his comfortable position on the couch, not bothering to get up. The sarcasm in his tone was unmistakable. I nodded in response, shepherding my children out to the car. The cold air, a relief after the suffocating atmosphere inside. As we drove home through the quiet streets, Christmas lights twinkling from houses we passed, Sophie broke the silence. Why does Grandma and Grandpa like Thomas, Amanda, and Bradley more than us? My knuckles whitened on the steering wheel. They don't like them more, honey. They just show their love in different ways. That's not true, Dad, Alex said from the back seat, his voice stronger than it expected. They definitely favor Uncle Jason's family. They've always been that way. I caught his eye in the rearview mirror, seeing a perceptiveness that both impressed and saddened me. You're right, Alex, and I'm sorry you've had to experience that. Is it because Uncle Jason has more money than us? Sophie asked. Partly, I admitted, deciding that honesty within reason was the best approach. Some people value money and status more than other things. Grandma and Grandpa are impressed by Uncle Jason's job and lifestyle. But you're a teacher, Alex said. You help kids learn. That's important too. I think so, I agreed, warmth spreading in my chest at my son's words. Very important. Just in a different way. So, what do we do? Sophie asked, the practical one, as always. We're going to have our own special Christmas tomorrow, I promised. And I'm going to make some changes to make sure we're all treated with respect going forward. As the children chatted about what movies we'd watch tomorrow, I formulated a plan that would either reset the boundaries of our family dynamic or reveal once and for all that there was no real relationship worth preserving. We arrived home to our modestly decorated house, the small artificial tree in the corner, a far cry from my parents' towering spruce, but somehow more welcoming. I made hot chocolate while the kids changed into pajamas, determined to salvage what remained of Christmas Eve. "Can we read The Night Before Christmas?" Sophie asked, clutching her well-worn copy of the book. "Absolutely," I said, settling onto the couch between them. "And then maybe watch a holiday movie before bed." For the next 2 hours, I focused entirely on creating positive memories with my children. We read Christmas stories. We watched the Polar Express with a bowl of popcorn between us. We talked about our favorite holiday traditions. Not once did I mention what had happened at my parents' house, though I knew the conversation would need to happen eventually. As I tucked Sophie into bed, she looked up at me with serious eyes. "Dad, are we poor?" My heart constricted. "No, sweetheart, we're not poor. We have everything we need. A home, food, clothes, and most importantly, we have each other. We're not rich like Uncle Jason, but wealth isn't just about money." She nodded, seemingly satisfied with this answer. "I like our Christmas better anyway. It's more cozy." In Alex's room, the conversation took a different turn. "You should stand up to them, Dad," he said, as I sat on the edge of his bed. "Grandma and Grandpa, I mean. And Uncle Jason. They treat us like we're less important." "You're right," I agreed, seeing no point in denying what had observed with his own eyes. "And am going to address it. I promise." "Good," he said firmly. "Because you always taught us about fairness and respect. You should expect the same from them." I squeezed his shoulder, amazed by his insight. "When did you get so wise?" "I have a pretty good teacher," he replied with a small smile. After the children were asleep, I sat at my desk with a notepad cataloging the extent of financial support I provided to my family. The list grew longer than even I had realized. The family cell phone plan with 8 lines, costing me $187 monthly. My parents, Jason, Stephanie, Thomas, my 2 children, and myself. 5 streaming services, Netflix, Hulu, Disney+, HBO Max, and Amazon Prime. Combined monthly cost $63. Cloud storage, hosting years of Jason's financial documents and family photos. $20 monthly for the expanded storage plan. The credit card with my parents as authorized users. No significant balance currently, but a history of purchases they made and promised to repay. Auto payments for my parents' home security system and internet service. $142 monthly, that had somehow become my responsibility 3 years ago when my father complained about the rising costs. Website hosting and domain registration for Stephanie's online boutique. Annual cost of $218, plus countless hours of maintenance and updates. Various subscriptions for family members. My father's sports streaming service. My mother's recipe website. Thomas gaming platform. As I reviewed bank statements from the past year, the total stunned me. Thousands of dollars spent supporting family members who clearly didn't respect or appreciate the contribution. Family members who had just demonstrated they viewed my children as less deserving than others. The realization crystallized my resolve. With methodical precision, I began the process of disentangling my finances from my extended family. First, the streaming services. I logged into each account, changed the passwords, and removed all device authorizations. For each, I made note of the expiration date, when my family would discover they no longer had access. Next, the cell phone account. I contacted the provider and initiated the process to remove all lines except mine and my children's. I arranged for the other lines to be notified that they would need to establish their own service within 30 days. The credit card was simpler. I called the company and reported my parents' cards lost, requesting replacements that I had no intention of giving them. Their cards would stop working immediately. I canceled the automatic payments for my parents' home services after confirming they weren't under contract that would cause them service interruptions. As the night progressed, Each cancellation brought an increasing sense of liberation. Years of financial entanglement unwound with each phone call, each website, form each confirmation email. Around midnight, I tackled the biggest items. I logged into the website hosting account for Stephanie's business. Before canceling, curiosity led me to examine the analytics dashboard I had set up years ago but rarely checked. What I discovered was illuminating. Her modest side business generated significant revenue. Based on the transaction records, she had made over $70,000 in the past year alone. All while I paid for the hosting, maintained the security certificates, and occasionally fixed technical issues when she called panicking about the site being down. Similarly, accessing the cloud storage account revealed that Jason used the service for far more than family photos. Financial documents, client information, tax records, all stored on the expanded plan I paid for, month after month. I downloaded all the data, ensuring nothing would be permanently lost, and saved it to an external hard drive. Then I canceled the hosting service, set up automated emails to notify everyone of the service terminations, and finally remotely deactivated the administrator access to my parents' home security system. By 3 a.m, exhausted but satisfied, I had systematically removed every financial support I had provided to my extended family. The only thing that remained was to prepare for the inevitable fallout. I turned my attention to making Christmas morning special for my children. I arranged their gifts under our small tree, each one chosen with care, rather than price in mind. The refurbished tablet for Alex loaded with educational apps and e-books. The sewing kit for Sophie with extra fabric I'd picked up from the craft store clearance bin. Small stocking stuffers. Candy. A board game. We could all play together. As I finally crawled into bed, a strange sense of peace settled over me. Whatever happened next, I'd taken back control of my own life and resources. I'd drawn a boundary that should have been established years ago. For the first time in longer than I could remember, I fell asleep without anxiety about money, without resentment toward my family, without the gnawing sense that I was being taken advantage of. Whatever came next, I would face it on my own terms. The buzzing of my phone on the nightstand pulled me from sleep. Squinting at the screen, I was greeted by a barrage of notifications. 43 missed calls, 37 text messages, 21 voicemails. The earliest had come in around 5:30 in the morning, likely when someone had first attempted to use a streaming service and found themselves logged out. The frequency increased dramatically around 7, when my parents typically checked their email and would have found the notifications about service cancellations. I silenced the phone, without reading the messages. Today was about my children, and giving them the Christmas morning they deserved. The fallout could wait a few hours. I heard Sophie and Alex, already awake, their excited whispers carrying down the hallway. Pulling on my robe, I headed to the kitchen to start breakfast, before they discovered the presents. "Merry Christmas, Dad," they called in unison as I passed the living room where they sat, examining their stockings, waiting for permission to begin. "Merry Christmas, guys," I replied, feeling genuinely cheerful despite the storm I knew was brewing. "Who wants chocolate chip pancakes?" The next hour unfolded exactly as Christmas morning should, the sizzle of pancakes on the griddle, the children's delight as they discovered the small treasures in their stockings, the methodical unwrapping of gifts each one received with genuine appreciation rather than the entitled expectation it witnessed the night before. Sophie's eyes widened as she opened the sewing kit. "It's perfect, Dad. Can we start making something today?" Alex explored his tablet with growing excitement. "This is awesome. It has all the science apps I wanted." We were midway through a game of Monopoly when the pounding on the front door began. I checked the time, 11:28. Longer than I'd expected before the confrontation began. "Keep playing," I told the children. "You'll see who it is." Through the peephole, I saw Jason standing on my porch, his face flushed with anger. I opened the door but blocked the entrance. "Merry Christmas, Jason," I said calmly. "What the hell did you do?" he demanded, Without preamble. Stephanie's website is down. The cloud storage is inaccessible. Mom and Dad's phones aren't working. Fix it. Now. I canceled services I was paying for, I replied. Services that were never appreciated or acknowledged. Are you serious? You're throwing a tantrum because your kids didn't get expensive presents. Grow up, Rudolph. This isn't about presents, I said, keeping my voice level. This is about years of disrespect and taking advantage of my financial support while treating me and my children as less valuable members of the family. So you're ruining Christmas. Over perceived slights. Stephanie's losing business as we speak. Interesting that her business earning $70,000 a year somehow couldn't cover the $200 annual hosting fee, I observed. His eyes narrowed. You had no right to look at her business records. I built and maintained the entire website, Jason. Am intimately familiar with every aspect of it, including the financial records that flow through the payment processor I set up. Am going to sue you for damages, he threatened. Interruption of business. Emotional distress. Whatever it takes. You might want to consult a lawyer before making threats, I suggested. Every service was in my name, paid from my accounts with no contractual obligation to maintain them for your benefit. Our raised voices had attracted the attention of neighbors. Across the street, Mrs. Patterson watched from her window. Next door, the Ramirez family had paused their Christmas morning activities to observe the confrontation. This isn't over, Jason said, jabbing a finger toward my chest. You've crossed a line. No, Jason. I'm simply drawing a line that should have existed long ago. He stormed back to his car, peeling out of my driveway with unnecessary force. I closed the door, taking a deep breath, before returning to my children. Is everything okay? Dad Alex asked, concern evident in his expression. Everything is fine, I assured him. Uncle Jason is just upset about some changes I made. We had just resumed our game when police lights flashed through the front window. 2 officers approached my door, their expressions professional but wary. Rudolph Carter, the older officer, asked when I opened the door. Yes, that's me. Officer Garcia. This is Officer Tanner. We received a call from your parents expressing concern about your welfare. They suggested you might be experiencing some mental health difficulties. Mind if we come in and talk? I nearly laughed at the absurdity. Of course. Please come in. I invited them into the kitchen away from the children who watched curiously from the living room. My parents called because I canceled phone and internet services I was paying for. I explained, showing them the account statements on my phone. There's no mental health crisis, just a family disagreement about financial boundaries. Officer Garcia nodded slowly. They've suggested you're experiencing a breakdown of some kind. Mentioned irrational behavior. The irrational behavior being that I stopped paying their bills, I clarified. I have documentation of all services that were in my name, which I legally canceled. No threats were made. No one was harmed. I simply stopped financial support after years of unequal treatment. I showed them the text messages confirming our no-gift agreement for Christmas, followed by photos I'd taken of the expensive presents given to my nephews and niece, compared to the gift card my children received. I provide significant financial support to my family. I continued, while they consistently treat my children as less important than my brother's children. Last night was simply the final straw. The officers exchanged glances, their posture relaxing. Sounds like a family matter rather than a police matter, Officer Tanner said. No crime in canceling your own accounts. If there's nothing else suggest maybe some family counseling, Officer Garcia added. But we're not seeing any cause for concern from a law enforcement perspective. I appreciate your understanding, I said, walking them to the door. And am sorry your Christmas morning was disrupted for this. All part of the job, Officer Garcia replied with a small smile. Merry Christmas, Mr. Carter. Hope things settle down for you soon. They had barely pulled away when another car arrived. My parents this time, my mother's face streaked with tears, my father's set in a hard scowl. May we come in? My mother asked, her voice trembling. I hesitated, then nodded. The children are playing in the living room. Let's talk in the kitchen. Once seated at my small kitchen table, my mother began. How could you do this, Rudolph? On Christmas of all days. I could ask you the same question, I replied calmly. How could you so blatantly favor one set of grandchildren over the other? How could you agree to no gifts, then lavish thousands on Jason's children, while giving mine a restaurant gift card? That's what this tantrum is about, my father demanded. You're punishing the entire family because you're jealous of your brother. This isn't about jealousy, I said. It's about respect. It's about recognizing that I've been financially supporting this family for years while being treated as less valuable than Jason. What financial support, my mother asked, genuinely confused. We don't ask you for money. I pulled out the list I'd made the night before. Cell phone service for 8 people. Streaming services everyone uses. Website hosting for Stephanie's business. Cloud storage for Jason's documents. Internet and security system payments for your house. Emergency loans that were never repaid. I slid the paper across the table. In the past year alone, I've spent over $5,000 supporting this family, all while being treated as the less important son with the less important children. My parents stared at the list in silence. I didn't realize. My mother finally said, Exactly. You didn't realize because you take it for granted. Just like you take me for granted. Just like you assume my children deserve less than Jason's. My phone buzzed continuously with texts from Stephanie about her website being down. I ignored them. So what do you want? My father asked. Money. No, I said firmly. I want respect. I want my children treated equally to their cousins. I want acknowledgement of my contributions to this family. And until those things happen, I'm no longer providing financial support. This is blackmail, my father accused. This is a boundary I corrected, one that should have existed long ago. A knock at the door interrupted us. My neighbor Lucy stood on the porch with an apologetic smile. Sorry to bother you on Christmas, she said. But I wondered if Alex and Sophie might like to come over and play with my kids for a while. We just got a new Nintendo Switch, and there's hot chocolate. I recognized the rescue attempt for what it was. Lucy had clearly observed the police visit, and my parents' arrival. That would be wonderful, I said gratefully. Let me ask them. Both children jumped at the opportunity, quickly putting on coats and boots before heading across the street. With them safely away from the confrontation, I returned to the kitchen where my parents waited in uncomfortable silence. Let's be clear about something, I said, sitting down again. This isn't a negotiation. I'm not asking for permission to stop financially supporting you all. I've already done it. The question now is whether we can rebuild some kind of relationship based on mutual respect rather than exploitation. Exploitation, my father repeated incredulously. That's a strong word. Is it you and Mom have a combined income of over $150,000 a year? Jason makes at least 3 times that. Yet somehow, I'm the one paying for services everyone uses without contribution or acknowledgement. My mother wiped at her tears. We never meant to take advantage. Maybe not consciously, I conceded. But that's exactly what happened. And it stops now. My phone rang again. Jason. Put him on speaker, my father demanded. I answered the call, activating the speaker function. Yes, Jason. Your childish stunt has gone far enough. His voice filled the kitchen. Stephanie's losing holiday sales. I can't access critical documents I need for year-end reports. Fix it now, or face consequences. What consequences would those be? I asked mildly. Legal action for business interference, for starters. I have friends at top law firms who would take this case in a heartbeat. Before you pursue that route, I suggested you might want to calculate the cost of the services I've provided over the years against any lost revenue from one day of website downtime. Also consider how a judge might view your failure to secure your own business data, rather than relying on your brother's free cloud storage. This isn't about money, he shouted. It's about you throwing a temper tantrum because your feelings got hurt. Actually, Jason, it's entirely about money. Money I've spent supporting your family while you mock mine. Money I've contributed while receiving disrespect in return. That arrangement is over." He hung up without another word. My father stood, his face flushed with anger. "This is not how family behaves, Rudolph." "I couldn't agree more," I replied steadily. "Family doesn't show blatant favoritism. Family doesn't mock members who earn less. Family doesn't take financial support for granted while treating the provider as less valuable." My mother rose as well, still crying. "What do you want from us, Rudolph? Just tell us what you want. I want you to leave now and really think about how you've treated me and my children over the years. If you decide you want a relationship based on mutual respect going forward, I'm open to that conversation. But the financial support ends today, regardless of your decision." They left without further argument, my mother still in tears, my father rigid with anger. Neither had acknowledged their role in creating the situation or offered a genuine apology. It was exactly as I'd expected. As their car pulled away, I felt an odd mixture of sadness and liberation. The family dynamic had been irreparably altered. Whether something healthier would emerge remained to be seen. The days immediately following Christmas passed in relative calm. I took the children ice skating, built snow forts in the backyard, and watched holiday movies with mugs of hot chocolate. We didn't discuss what had happened with their grandparents and uncle, though I knew the conversation would need to happen eventually. Behind the scenes, I continued untangling my finances from the extended family. I set up new separate accounts where necessary. I sent a detailed email to everyone explaining that while I was open to rebuilding relationships, financial support would no longer be part of the equation. I outlined expectations for equal treatment of all grandchildren and respect for my role in the family. The responses were predictable. Jason sent a terse message suggesting I seek therapy for my obvious mental health issues. My father forwarded information about family counseling services. My mother sent a tearful voice message asking when things would go back to normal. None acknowledged their role in the situation or offered meaningful change. I didn't reply to any of them. Actions would speak louder than words going forward. 1 month after Christmas, my mother called suggesting we meet for dinner at a neutral location. I agreed, arranging for a babysitter so the children wouldn't be subjected to potentially difficult conversations. We met at a moderately priced restaurant downtown. My parents arrived first, already seated when Jason and I arrived separately. The tension at the table was palpable as we ordered drinks and appetizers. "I think we need to clear the air," my mother began once the server had left. "This situation has gone on long enough." "Which situation would that be?" I asked calmly. "The financial exploitation or the unequal treatment of your grandchildren?" My father sighed heavily. "Can we have a conversation without accusations?" "I'm stating facts, not making accusations," I replied. "But yes, I'm happy to discuss how we move forward constructively." "We've been thinking about what you said," my mother admitted, surprising me with the acknowledgement about how we treat the grandchildren differently. It wasn't intentional, but looking back, I can see how it appeared that way. Jason interjected. "Come on, Mom. You and Dad have always favored my kids. Let's at least be honest here." The admission from Jason shocked me into momentary silence. "We may have gotten carried away with the gifts," my father conceded grudgingly. "But that doesn't justify cutting off the entire family and disrupting Stephanie's business." I provided advance notice that services were ending, I pointed out. And I downloaded all data before canceling anything. The disruption was minimal and temporary. "My point," my father continued, "is that the response was disproportionate to the offense. This wasn't about one Christmas," I explained. "It was about years of imbalance and disrespect. The Christmas incident was simply the catalyst for change that was long overdue." Jason leaned forward, his expression still resentful but pragmatic. "Look, I still think you overreacted, but I understand why you felt the way you did. I'll pay for my own family's phone service and cloud storage moving forward." "And we've updated all our accounts," my mother added, though the process was quite confusing at our age. "What I want to know," my father said, "is what happens now. Do we have a relationship going forward or not?" "That depends," I replied. "Are we establishing new ground rules where everyone is treated with respect? Where all grandchildren receive equal treatment? Where my contributions to the family, financial or otherwise, are recognized rather than taken for granted?" "That's reasonable," my mother said, quickly shooting a warning glance at my father, who seemed ready to argue. We spent the next hour establishing clear expectations. My parents would make conscious efforts to connect equally with all grandchildren. Jason would take responsibility for his own family expenses. I would maintain appropriate boundaries, while remaining open to rebuilding trust. It wasn't a perfect resolution, and I harbored no illusions that decades of established patterns would change overnight. But it was a beginning. 3 months later, we gathered for Sophie's birthday. The difference was noticeable immediately. My parents arrived with a gift comparable to what they'd given Thomas for his birthday the previous month. They engaged genuinely with both my children, asking questions about their interests and activities. Jason and Stephanie brought their children, but left after an appropriate time rather than dominating the celebration. My mother pulled me aside as they were leaving. "I hope you've noticed we're trying Rudolph." "I have," I acknowledged. "I appreciate the effort." "We never meant to hurt you or the children," she said, her voice softening. "We just got caught up in Jason's success and forgot what really matters." It wasn't quite an apology, but it was progress. Thank you for recognizing that. The changes extended beyond family dynamics. Without the financial burden of supporting extended family, my own situation improved significantly. I paid off 2 credit cards that had carried balances for years. I started a modest savings account. I even treated myself to a new laptop to replace the aging model I'd been nursing along for far too long. My relationship with my children strengthened as well. They noticed the shift in how they were treated by their grandparents and cousins, commenting on feeling more welcomed and valued during family gatherings. More importantly, they witnessed their father standing up for them and for himself, modeling self-respect and appropriate boundaries. In an unexpected development, I began dating again, meeting Sarah, a divorced pediatrician, with a son Alex's age, through a school function. She valued my profession, appreciated my perspective on education, and understood the challenges of single parenthood. For the first time in years, I felt seen and respected by a potential partner. 6 months after the Christmas confrontation, I received news that I'd been selected as the new English department head at my school. The position came with a modest stipend and reduced teaching load, allowing more time for administrative duties and curriculum development. The additional income, while not substantial, further eased my financial situation. On a warm evening in June, sitting on my back porch watching the children play with their new puppy, a rescue mutt wed, adopted from the local shelter, I reflected on the journey of the past 6 months. The painful confrontation, the difficult conversations, the gradual rebuilding of relationships on healthier terms. The most valuable lesson hadn't been financial, though those boundaries remained firmly in place. The most important understanding was about self-worth and the courage to demand respect, about breaking patterns that had persisted across generations, about creating a healthier example for my children to follow in their own relationships. Love, I had come to realize, required both generosity and boundaries. It demanded respect, flowing in both directions. It couldn't exist authentically when exploitation or favoritism was present. By standing firm on that Christmas night, I had given myself and my children the most valuable gift possible, the knowledge that we deserve to be treated with fairness and respect, and the courage to accept nothing less. As the sun set on another day in our reshaped reality, I felt a profound sense of peace. The family dynamics would never be perfect. Old habits would occasionally resurface, but the fundamental shift had occurred, and there was no going back to the unhealthy patterns of the past. Have you ever had to set difficult boundaries with family members who took advantage of your generosity? Share your experience in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please hit the like button and subscribe for more real-life stories about family dynamics and personal growth. Thank you for listening, and remember that sometimes the most important gift you can give yourself is the courage to demand the respect you deserve.